Hey everyone, so my topic today is about legalism. I'm sure you have witnessed it by what some Christians have said, where they just make you feel like you're not pleasing with God because you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to spend so many hours in the prayer room, or you have to read so many chapters in the Bible a day, and you have to attend their Bible studies each week, or any kind of list of expectations they're throwing at you. And you have your salvation, but then there's things that you have to do according to them in order to be pleasing to God, in order to be right with God. So looking up definition about legalism, and this is really, this word right here really catches it. Excessive adherence to a law or formula. That's what it is. You have the law, and these people make it excessive. So it reminds me of when I was in Bible college. I was told about the whole Pharisees things. They created laws upon laws. So if, in order not to commit adultery, you would set a bunch of laws before that. This, if I remember correctly, you set a bunch of laws before that so you won't even be hit with that issue of the law. And so I guess they did that with everything, and they put the laws out on the people, making it harder for them. And so when you do that, you make it hard for them to really walk how they should walk and do what they have to do for God. So the definition of, from a theological standpoint, is a dependence on moral law rather than a personal religious faith. And so a biblical example of legalism is, that circumcision group that, was in the book of Acts that Paul was speaking about. Here, you're trying to build up your followers, make them strong with God. And then this group comes in and they lay these burdens out on the people, making it hard for them to get saved. And so the circumcision group came and said, unless you are circumcised according to the custom taught by Moses, you cannot be saved. And so Paul had to come against that. And I think he said that Barnabas was led astray by this group. He didn't want to get an altercation with them. And so I think even Peter was led astray. And then Paul had to correct that, because I think it was a group of, what was it? Greek men who were recently converts. And, Peter sat with them until the circumcision group came. And then he started sitting with different people. And so Paul saw that and corrected it. So, on the topic of Abraham, Paul was talking about that. And he said, when was Abraham considered righteous? Was it before or after his circumcision? He said it was not after, but before. And so, sorry, a pathetic delivery popped up, and I'm not about to take that. So he said it was not after, but before. Um, it said, likewise, faith in Christ makes us righteous through the blood of Christ. So it's not about what we do for God that will make us righteous or make us pleasing to God. It's about what Jesus had done. So what help from us did Jesus need to redeem us? we could offer no help. It says in Ephesians 2:8-9, for it is by grace that you have been saved through faith, and this not of yourselves, it is a gift of God, not by works, lest no man should boast. So, if we could save ourselves, which we couldn't, if we could save ourselves, then we would boast about it to men. And then we wouldn't need Jesus. But the fact is that we couldn't save ourselves, because here we have sin in our lives that there's no way that could be taken care of except by his blood. So Jesus's work and his redemption for us, he made it to where there is nothing that we can do. We can't even boast about it. So we have many Christians who add on our faith works we have to do to be pleasing to God. And I had said, without knowing what Jesus has done for us, you can get caught trying to please God with works. I already said, pray more, read so many chapters in the Bible. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting in the prayer closet with God. There's nothing wrong with it at all. It's what we should do. But Jesus even spoke about that if you're doing it for men to see you, people think, oh, he's so holy. He is so good. Look how good he's praying. Look how long he's praying. If you're doing it just for show, there's a difference. And, if it was to get into the praying about what's really important, and your prayer is 2 minutes long, then, you've accomplished more in the eyes of God than you have of that person that is speaking so many words. So, reading the chapters of the Bible a day, it reminds me of Keith Green. I love his music, and I loved his testimony about what his wife wrote in the book. He had this conviction. He said to God, I'm going to read so many chapters a day. And when he got so busy and couldn't do it, he felt like a failure. So there has to be a balance. I mean, you can't set yourself up to fail like that. There has to be grace. And I've always said that, you're going to pray. Why not pray when you're driving? Or, keeping that connection with God open through everything that you're doing. He resides in us, so it's becoming aware of the fact that he resides in us. So, these legalistic Christians would say you need to pray more, but it's not only that. They'll add on to that, you got to pray in a certain place, or you got to do this, or you got to do that. And you got to read so many chapters of the Bible a day. If you don't, you're failing God. It reminds me of that one time. I had said in other videos that I had to do community service hours because of where I stayed with my mother. They required 8 hours per month. And so, I was like, I got to find a place now to do them. So I spoke with the lady that had a ministry, so she agreed that I would do that for her. So she had some tasks for me to do in order to complete that. And so she said that before I would be part of that ministry, that I had to go in her prayer room to pray. I'm like thinking to myself, there's something not right about that. And so I shared that with my pastors, and they were like, run, because they knew exactly what legalism was. But because I needed to do, the community service hours, and that was a nearby location for me, I just did them there. So I was like, I can just deal with her legalistic garbage. So I figure, well, if I'm going to pray to God, I'll just go into her prayer room and spend my time with him there. And that's what I did. But I don't think I compromised. I just, made an adjustment. But that's just so you can see there are a lot of people like that make you feel that you're not right with God and you're less than the way God sees you. Um, there was another time that there was a group of people that came to my church, and it's the first time I ever witnessed that, where there's certain people that can feel God in certain ways. Some fall out. Someone places their hand on them and they'll feel, I guess, the presence of God, whatever it is. For me, I feel like, I guess you would say, goosebumps. That's how I would feel. So, a lot of these people were getting drunk in the spirit and all that, and I'm like thinking, what am I lacking? And so I wrongly went to the guy that was, praying for people, and he said, well, you have unconfessed sin in your life. He said, go home and confess and then come back. And so because, you know, at that time, I got duped by what he said. So I went home, repented, and I still didn't feel anything. So it was just garbage. So that's another example of legalism that you could witness. I'm sure as I'm speaking, you have some ideas, or, you have what people have told you that, it really didn't sound right, but, it happens. So I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not against the law fully, because with the law of God, it makes us righteous, or it makes us conscious of our sin. How would we know sin except by the law? So, I mean, you're bringing somebody to God. I think about Ray Comfort. He uses the law of God to show people their sin. If somebody doesn't know that they're sinning, well, you show. You ever told a lie? Then that makes you a liar. Have you lusted after a woman or a man? Well, that makes you an adulterer at heart. So showing them that they are sinning leads them to that place to where they need to know that their sin is going to lead to death, according to Romans 6:23. So there needs to be an antidote regarding that, and that is Jesus. So, I'm not against the law fully, but I am against excessive laws that take the focus away from what Jesus had done for us. There's got to be a balance between law and grace. So, I'm not speaking all about grace, because, like I said, there needs to be a balance. But there is a difference between someone helping us stay on the path and someone creating obstacles while on the path. So, it said the road is straight and narrow to lead to God. Well, as we're on the path, people create obstacles like these excessive moral laws or different kinds of laws that we have to follow according to the likes of the person that's inflicted those laws on us. So, without these obstacles, we can follow God so much easier, but we need to know what Jesus had done for us so that we can not have to deal with those obstacles. Now, when you focus pleasing people, it takes longer to get to the destination. So we need to stop following people. We need to stop listening to people that are making it hard for us to follow God fully. So we know what the real issue is, regarding God. We know what we need to do. I mean, if you sit and spend time with God, then he can reveal to you what you need to do. I mean, are you convicted with the fact that maybe you're not reading as much scripture as you should? Well, that's between you and God. That's no one else's business. You know what you need to do. Do you need to spend more time with God? Well, that's between you and God. So whatever adjustments that need to be made, make them. One thing I've always learned, when following God, is there are two laws that we only need to follow. and that's loving God and loving one another. When we do those two things, we fulfill the entire law. So that is what we need to focus on. So there's a lot in that about loving one another. What issues do we have with each other that's keeping us from loving each other? You know what the real issues are. So is there forgiveness that needs to be made? Do you need to talk it out with your brother and sister you have a problem with? Well, whatever it's going to take, work it out right now. So loving God and loving one another should be our goal. No religious rules to move us into doing for God rather than being. Rest in what Jesus has done for us. And now Paul gave an example. He said, if anyone builds on the foundation of God with anything costly, it will be shown for what it is. What is unnecessary that you are doing that is built on your faith what is unnecessary that you are doing that is built on your faith in what Jesus had done? So you know what Jesus has done, but you have all these people that are throwing what you got to do here, what you got to do there, and your focus is on trying to accomplish these tasks, yet your focus is off of God then. So we just need to watch our foundation in God, what's being built upon it. Now, we want to make sure that our focus is always on Jesus and what we got to do, what God is calling us to, but making sure that our focus is not on anything of the world, that we're putting on our foundation of God. So in closing, take a step back. Do you need to spend time with God? How can you make a change to do this? Reading the word, hearing God, whatever it is. Each of us knows what the real issues are, but it takes us getting into God's presence, asking us, God, Lord, what do you want me to do? Lord, help me to focus on what you want me to do. Help me to learn about what you had done on the cross, and help me, show me those people that are trying to make it hard for me to follow you, that are telling me I gotta follow these rules and doing this and doing that in order to please you, when I'm already pleased with you already. You're already pleased with me already. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I pray this message has blessed you. Thank you for taking the time to watch.